Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. This is Annika Jackson with Your Brand Amplified, and I'm doing something a little different and fun for me today, which is talking to another podcaster who is also a very busy mom, grandmom, and so much more. So Dawn Wecker of Dawnversations podcast, thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. And like you said, we're busy. The last week I had to cancel last minute because just life just gets in the way of everything.
It really does.
You think you're making the steps forward and then it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think this is a conversation really about being a mom, being a podcaster, wanting to pour into our jobs, our families, the things that we love to do with podcasting. And then how do you fit everything in? What do you say no to? How do you create boundaries around all of that? So before we get into that, I'd love for you to talk about your journey because you are an elderly caregiver. Correct?
Yes.
You used to be a hairstylist for 30 years.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So talk about your journey. And then when did you start your podcast? And what was the impetus behind the podcast?
Well, I started the podcast as a hairstylist. And I wanted it to be all about the stuff that we hear, when we're doing hair, behind the hair, the things that we deal with, customer service and all of that. Because it wasn't a topic. Anything I looked up, it was all about how to make more money as a stylist, whatever. So that was my idea. And it was called Dawnversations. And my son's friend came up with that idea. I wish I was clever, but I'm not. And so I just started that and it was really fun. But then I ended up retiring. I hurt my elbow. And so after 30 years, I was like, it's okay. I've done hair long enough anyway, so that's fine. Well, then after I was done doing hair, I kind of felt like, well, instead of just talking about hair, I want to talk about everything. So I started finding podcast pages and stuff, and I switched it over to Dawnversations so that I could just have whoever I wanted on. And then I ended up getting a job as a caregiver for the elderly. And I don't know, I'm sure every town or city has it, but it's kind of like where they can stay home instead of going to a senior home. And so I go there and do odd jobs or take them to appointments, clean, whatever they need, just so that they are able to stay in their home. And it's so rewarding and I love it. I wish I would have started it sooner, honestly, just talking to these older people, just like being around kids. It just gives you some kind of joyous feeling to be around people that have had so much experience like that. So
many things you can learn from them too.
Exactly. But yeah, it's a balance for sure. And I enjoy podcasting so much because I'm getting to meet, like you, so many people from all over. And I don't want to give it up, but I'm not making money off of it. So it's just like, it's hard to say no. It's hard to find that balance. But I'm not ready to give it up yet.
Well, it seems like one of the true lines is that you're a very outgoing social person. And so you get a lot out of having conversations with people, whether it was in your salon, post-salon, with your elderly clients, or through podcasting.
100%. Yeah. Because when I left doing hair, yes, I still miss doing hair sometimes because it was fun, it's artistic, but mostly what I missed was the social part. And I didn't even think about that when I found it's like, I'm just going to do something else. And I was like, who am I going to talk to? I have family and friends, but they don't want to hear from me 24/7.
But, and I think one of the interesting things about your podcast also is that you're not doing it to market something to people, right? A lot of podcasts, that is their purpose, is to get people interested in their business. Even mine, I'm not overly markety. I also like to have conversations with people and meet interesting people and learn from them and let my audience learn from them. But it doesn't hurt if people then decide they want to look me up for PR or my brand amplifier program or other things that my company does.
Right. Yeah. And I was looking at a couple of your videos and they look like so professional, the intro and everything. And I think mine looks like a cartoon. And I just try, it's not professional, but I never claimed to be. I'm just like, I'm a former hairstylist and I like to talk. That's all it is. I'm not trying to be an entrepreneur. I'll leave that to the people that are good at that. That's not my thing.
No, but I think that you're in a place that a lot of people are starting podcasts comes from, right? And having a podcast, being a hairstylist, those are entrepreneurship journeys.
Yeah, that's true. How long have you had your podcast?
This one is about 3 years old now.
Okay.
And I had 2 other podcasts that I hosted for clients, and I had a radio and Facebook Live show before that. So it's been like a journey to this spot.
Yeah. And the live stuff scares me to death. Like I tried to do a YouTube live and it was like my mom, my sister, and my husband. And I was still just like shaking because you know that all these eyes are on you. And so my podcast is all audio and I like it like that.
Oh, okay.
I feel like people feel more comfortable if they can just, have bedhead and be in their sweats and then just having a chat over the phone for a half an hour. I don't know. I think it's just me. I'm more insecure. I don't know that I want my face out there like
It's a process, right? Like you have to take baby steps to get into that comfort level. And that's something when I work with clients for PR, that's one of the things we talk about. Like, let's get you on some podcasts and just easy interviews that then will, map up and get you more comfortable sharing your story, sharing your journey, and then being on camera. So right. It's a process for everybody. Most people don't feel comfortable being on camera. Everything we do is public speaking, even if you're like talking to somebody at the grocery store, but people don't think about that in terms of public speaking. They just think about like, oh gosh, people are looking at me, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, because people can be so mean. You see it all the time on social media and everything where people are just ready to, she looks fat, old, whatever. And it's like, I don't know if I'm willing to put myself out there like that. Did you go to school for journalism then?
I didn't. I actually majored in public administration, but I was already working in marketing.
Okay. Yeah. I think that would be a really fascinating field, marketing and advertising and all that stuff.
It's always changing. So you definitely have to keep up with a lot.
Yeah. Is the AI stuff really starting to pour into that?
It is. Yeah, it is. And there are a lot of like ways to use it correctly and ways not to use it. And I'm definitely not an expert at that. I need to have like a day just to focus on learning it really well. Right. But I do use stuff like that for my podcast, like for my show notes and transcripts and stuff like that to make it a little easier. Because most of the time it spells things correctly and gets the gist of what you're talking about. Sometimes you have to go back in and fine tune. But I want to know, why podcast? Like, what was that instead of having a blog or having something else? Was it because you liked having those conversations and that connection?
Yes, honestly, I have always, this goes against everything that I just said to you, but I've always wanted to be a talk show host. I loved Johnny Carson all growing up. I loved how he just had different guests, whether they were musical or they were dealt with animals or they were singers, whatever. And I just loved it. I thought that would be so fun. And then Oprah came out and Donahue and all those. And I just thought having a microphone and just talking to people and asking them questions would be the coolest thing. So podcasting really was just like, wow, I don't have to go to school for this. I can just turn on my stuff and just go away and talk to people. So it was kind of the best of both worlds without having to have the education background.
Nice.
There's so many out there now, though. It's intimidating. All the different types, genres. It's like movies or books. There's just a million podcasts out there. And, you just get lost. Sometimes it feels like you get lost in the rest. Like, hello, I'm over here. But if people want to find me, they'll find me. I'm not in it for the money or, notoriety. It's just fun to meet people. So it's just a cool avenue.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that because podcasting is becoming more and more important on the PR side of things. We see that it's a great medium for people to meet, have conversations. It's opened up the world so much more because you don't have to be face-to-face. We can do this over Zoom or Riverside FM or StreamYard or whatever your platform of choice is.
Right.
But, there's a whole thing of like people who are doing podcasting because it's fun and they want to do it, like yourself. Mm-hmm. And then other people who are like, how do we monetize this? And I feel like that happens with everything. Something new comes up on social media. There's immediately like 5 people who are trying to sell you a process for how to monetize the platform when you're like, wait, I just want to be on Threads because it reminds me of like old school Facebook or other platforms where I can just post something and it doesn't matter and I don't have to think about sales.
Yeah, exactly. And when I first started, it was through Anchor. And if you had like so many listeners, which is now Spotify, but if you had so many listeners, then you'd qualify. They pay you for, if you had an ad through Spotify, you made your own. And so I would do that. But when I listen to podcasts, I hate ads. I hate hearing the ads. So I later went through and I just pulled them all. I was just like, that's not what I'm doing it for. And I want people just to hear why they clicked on it. You know, if it says I'm going to learn about grief, then I want them to just click on it and then not hear some random ad in the middle of it. I don't know. It's not against anybody that does that. That's just not for me. That's not my game. So, but yeah, I think podcasting it's an interesting thing. And to see all these celebrities and stuff now starting them, I'm like, geez.
I know, right? It's like, why did
you do enough?
Come on, let us have something.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the funny thing that happened is I was up for the podcast awards. I got nominated in 2 categories and I was like, it's amazing, you know, because I haven't like really put myself out there to pay to apply to be, you know, on these award things or like, I have to do that. And that's also not why I do this. But I was like, this is so cool. And then I found out that, oh, there's like 2 rounds. So you get nominated and then they cool it down to like a smaller group of people. And then they have a whole group of judges that decide. But when I looked at this other podcast, I'm like, yeah, these are all people who have like really big connections and followings. And how do you compete with that when you're trying to put out good content? You have to just hope that the right people find you, people who will really resonate. And that's one thing I like about your podcast is it is like listening to girlfriends. It's like having conversations. And sometimes you just want to have that, you know, you and your friends don't have time to connect because they're also moms and working and volunteering and you have like 2 minutes at a time to try to get on the phone. So I like listening to other people who I'm like, we could be friends. Like, this is a conversation.
Yeah. And you want to be accessible. You want to seem real and authentic. You know, I never pretend like I'm some big, huge person that has all these connections and stuff. My numbers aren't huge. I don't care. Like, do you ever get in your head about it when you look at numbers? Are you like, am I losing it? Do I not have enough? Or my guests not bringing the information that I want to get out there?
I think it's such a struggle. I feel like with everything else in life, you have to put ad dollars behind things if you want growth. So, you know, you have to use all the different mechanisms. But if you're going to do that, it's a full-time job.
Right.
And until it's sustainable, right? It's hard to like figure out. And I do pay an editor. I do have people who help me make graphics because that is definitely not my forte. But at the same time, I'm also like you going, okay, I do this because I love it and it gives me a platform and it gives my guests a platform. But how much is too much to pour into this?
Right.
And then on the other side, I also pitch, which I think is how we originally met through like a Facebook group. And I have a couple clients I'd love to get on Dawnversations. And now I have some clients who are like, well, I need to see the numbers. And I also remind people it's not about the numbers. It's about, is this the right audience?
Yes.
You know, it's the same thing, like written. I've had clients get in a smaller women's publication like Girl Talk HQ that somebody in Forbes saw that article and then wrote about them. And then they got on Amazon for a TV show. Like those things happen. So discounting the right audience just because you don't think they have enough of a number, you know, is definitely an issue. And to your point about YouTube, I had to recently share with somebody, they're like, oh, they only have 28 followers on YouTube. So we don't know if this is really valuable. And I was like, I get 42 to 52,000 downloads for my podcast every month. Across episodes, they build, right? It's not like I don't have an audience that's all rushing to like my latest episode. People are listening to the episode that's resonating because they're all on topics.
Right.
But I only have 18 followers on YouTube because frankly, it's not a priority to me. It's not something I'm pouring money or time into right now. But I know that my audience is valuable. And I know that most of it's not on YouTube. Now, maybe down the line, I'll put stuff into it. But I think it's all about perspective.
It is for sure. And when I have had people reach out to me and say they want to be on, and then they're like, can you tell me what your numbers are? A lot of the times I just don't even reply. It's like, you're not my guest. If that's why you're being on is so that you can, you know, have 10 extra people than another podcaster, then go over there. You know, it's just, that's not why I'm in it. And that's what I started getting into the numbers. And it's like, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. And then my husband was finally like, Dawn, you need to remember why you got into this to begin with. It was for fun. And it's like, that's right. And I have met so many amazing people, like, and learned so much. Because a lot of the topics I have no idea about. And so they're literally teaching me when they come on. And my questions, I do not have questions written down ever. I am just like having a conversation. Whatever they say, I'm like, oh, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And that's how I like it to flow. Just authentically, like you'd overhear somebody getting their hair done and hear their conversation. That's what it is. And so that's how I like it. But yeah, I had to just get back in there and just say, Dawn, you're doing this for fun. You are not doing this so you can become Oprah Winfrey.
But you never know, maybe you will become Oprah Winfrey anyway. So that's the other beauty of platforms that have the ability to grow, is that you just don't know who's listening or who's going to say, oh, I really want you to do this other thing that gets your content out to an even bigger audience.
Right. There's so many potentials out there if you want them. Like, I think you can make it as serious as you want to. What, like you said, you're not putting all your time and effort into YouTube because that's not where your interest is. So why would you do that? You know, it's a lot of extra energy, and you're a busy person, obviously. So you don't have all that time to invest. It'd be nice if we were all just sitting at home doing nothing.
Oh my gosh.
make videos for everything. It's just not the real world. Not when you're a working single mom, working whatever. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Podcasting is no joke. If people think it's just picking up a microphone and, you know, talking, it's not. You have to do a lot of research and the editing and all that just to make it sound credible and worth listening to.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because I was going to ask you, what were some of the surprising things you learned when you jumped into podcasting? Are you ready to take your brand to new heights? Join the Brand Amplifier for Entrepreneurs program. Learn how to build, elevate, and amplify your brand with a comprehensive 10-module course. Learn more about it and other ways to implement our strategies at fullcapacitymarketing.com. Click on EFCM Learning Hub for more information. Can't wait to help you amplify your brand.
I learned that if there's anybody out there that wants to start a podcast, just do it. Just start, because there's no perfect. You know, you get better and better and better with each episode, with each year, season, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, to not expect perfection. I definitely learned that. My son was originally the one that got me all set up with everything, and that he was doing my editing. But then he wanted to get married and have a life. And so he was teaching me how to edit. And I was so intimidated because I'm not techie. And now I do all my own editing, and I help other people edit. And I'm like, ooh, I'm so good at this. I'm so techie now. So I just feel like I'm learning. I'm broadening the brain span, you know, and I feel like every day that I do a podcast, I'm learning more. Not just from that person, but just about myself and what I'm capable of. And so that's an empowering feeling.
Definitely.
But yeah, I just love it. I just think it's such a fun platform.
I do too.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I learn something new every day from my guests, and it's usually whatever message I need to hear. And I say that often on my podcast episodes. So I hope people aren't like bored of hearing me say that, but it's great because I'm like, yeah, it's not just, I'm getting so much value out of it too. And like forming new relationships and learning something or being reminded of something I need to focus on for my life, for my business or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if you ever do this, but there's moments when I'm interacting and actually we're doing the podcast when they'll say something and I'll be like, there's my sound bite. Like I could just hear it. Like when they just say something, it's like, that's so great. I can't wait. That's going to be my soundbite because the way they said it was like so eloquent and perfect. And I love that. It like gives me goosebumps. I'm like, oh, or when I could tell that they're really getting in the flow and they're getting comfortable. And then they start sharing a story or something, or do you mind if I say that? It's like, no, keep going. I love it. I want people to feel comfortable, and somebody out there, even if it's just one person, somebody out there is going to get something from it. And that's why I do it. I figure somebody's going to like it. Yeah, I know I do.
And now that you've learned how to do editing, have you thought about like turning that into a side hustle for other people who want to start podcasts and are kind of in the same space as you? It's not their primary thing. They want to do it for fun and to explore it. Because you have the skill.
I haven't. It's a good idea. I guess everybody's idea of what they want it to sound like is different. So you really would have to build a rapport with that person to know exactly how they want it to sound. You know, I cut out a lot. Like if people say, oh, your podcast, you are so eloquent, you speak so well. And it's like, I cut a lot of so, and I cut a lot of that stuff out. So it might sound like it's flowing well, but that's a lot of editing. I edit myself more than I do any of my guests.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's something to think about. It'd be nice to make extra money doing something that I'm already doing anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work. It takes a while, especially if I do get too wordy. I need to shut myself off.
When you started your podcast, did you think about like how long you wanted to be or plan any of that part out? Like you had your name, you knew kind of what you were going to do a little bit. You knew you were going to bring on different people talking about different topics that you could have organic conversations with.
I love talking to people, but I feel like once we've got the topic pretty well covered, I'm usually at that 30-minute mark. That's just kind of how it's happened. So I tell everybody before we start taping, or however you want to say it, it can go past 30 minutes. I don't care. But also my attention span, I'm like, we've already talked about it. That's it. Unless there's something more that really needs to come out, usually a half an hour is all that we need. And it's pretty well covered by then. But I love people being able to promote themselves at the end, because everybody wants to get their stuff out there, whether they've written a book or a song, or, you know, everybody's proud of themselves and their work. So I want to give them the platform of like, share it.
Yeah.
Get it out there. I'm more than happy to help. I love the idea of helping people get their name out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And when I first started this podcast, I was like, it's going to be 27 minutes. Max, because that was like the average drive time pre-pandemic in the US. And it's funny because I do have episodes that go longer now, but most of them end up being like 20 to 30-ish minutes. And I find that people appreciate that because they can listen to it in one drive. Typically
100%. That's so true. Because that's how I started listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Was we moved further out of town. And so I was making that commute to the salon, and it was a 20-minute from my door to the salon door. And so I would get on and look up a topic, and then I'd just go down the row and try and find one that was exactly 20 minutes. So that I knew I had something to listen to for the whole drive. So that's so funny you say that. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like after that, it's kind of, there's really not much else. I don't want a two-parter, you know? Let's get to it.
And there are other podcasts that I'm like, I really want to listen to the subject, but it's 2 hours long. I can't dedicate 2 hours to that.
I noticed too that there are some people, some guests that I have on, and they tell me, okay, I'm a proficient in this. I'd like to talk about this or that. And it's like, oh, great. Let's get to it. And then they kind of skirt around it. It's like, well, you'll have to get my book to find out. Or,
oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not
the book. Just share it. People will still buy the book if they're interested.
100%. Because they're not going to remember everything that you said. So yeah, I don't like that. But you never know if people are going to open way up or not. It's kind of the fun thing too. I don't do a pre-interview. I'm just like,
either.
it is what it is. And, you know, hope for the best.
I love it. I want to continue talking, but I also want to recognize that we're about to hit the 30-minute mark. That was so fast.
Yes.
So one of the ways that you find guests for your show, did you start like, because I know when I started this one, I started with like people who I worked with, my clients, you know, other people in PR and marketing, my team members. And then people started finding me and pitching me. And then I started using like systems that I love, like Podmatch and stuff, to find like the ideal guests.
Right. Yeah. I'll do Facebook pages or podcaster pages. I have most recently had a lot of my previous guests say, hey, I know somebody, they heard the episode, they want to be on, they talk about this, that, if you're interested. So that's great. I love referrals like that. Otherwise, I look on Instagram, or I'll go and look up a book, and then I'll contact the author or listen to other podcasters. And then I'll ask them to be on because they love to talk. So it's like a perfect guest. They know what it's like. So I really like to have other podcasters on. They're just really good guests, and they like to talk about their topic. So it's really kind of a good match. But yeah, right now, that's pretty much it. It's been a lot of referrals, which is great. It's super flattering too, because I really don't feel like I'm doing anything super special out there. But if somebody hears it and they really like me and like the show, then it's like, oh, that's nice. Come on.
You're what everybody's looking for right now. You're authentic, you're refreshing, you're approachable, you're authentic, you know, all of those things. Like they're not buzzwords. They're like what people actually want out of experiences these days.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. That's what I'm shooting for. But I'm just being myself. And like I said, hopefully people like it. And if they don't, there's plenty other podcasts. There's millions out there.
Yes. So Dawn, how do you fit podcasting into your life? Going back to our initial opening conversation, you are a mom of 3. You have a grandson and 2 more grandbabies on the way.
Yeah, that's right.
You got married last week. You also have a job, a husband. I'm sure you do a lot of other things that we haven't even talked about. So how often do you release episodes? How often do you have people on your podcast? And how much time do you spend going on other people's podcasts as well?
This one's probably like the 3rd or 4th that I've been on. I don't guest a lot. I'd like to. I think it's fun to be on other people's podcasts. But with me having such a weird variety show, people are just like, what are you an expert in? And I'm like, nothing. I just know lots of little bits of everything. But anyway, so yeah, I try and schedule a lot of podcasts like in a 2 to 3 week time period, where I'm doing like at least 1 or maybe even 2 a day.
Oh, wow.
In the afternoons, because I only work mornings for my other job. Then that way I can get my little stockpile and get moved out. So right now I think I'm done almost till the end of December. I think I'm good. So I don't have to record too many more, which is a good feeling. But then it's like, I still like to talk to people all the time. I just don't want to put them off and say, okay, your podcast will air in about 4 months. I don't want to, because people want to hear it as soon as they can.
That's a struggle. I've stopped and figured out how to balance it. One of the things I did was like, I have a lot of episodes in the can, was I'm going to release 3 episodes a week for a little bit. But I feel like that has almost decreased my number of listeners. So then I have to think about, is it really about the number of listeners, or is it just about making sure I'm getting things out so that people have an opportunity to listen to them and promote them and find them? Because same as you. And then like, I'm seeing on my Calendly right now, people are booking for August of next year.
Oh my gosh.
That's like so far away. I don't even know if I'm going to, I'm like, am I going to have to totally rearrange all these episodes for other days? I don't know what I'm going to be doing, or like, am I going to have client meetings that day, or am I going to want to So that's a whole process too that I haven't quite tuned. But when you find great guests, it's hard to turn them down.
That too. And it's also funny when you have like a great one and you're like, should I put that? Totally. I don't just like air that this week and then push everybody. I know you don't want to be rude either, but yeah, there's some where it's like, oh my God, that was such a great podcast. I want to push it ahead of everybody else. But that's a hard decision to make. Sometimes you have to do it though. It just feels right. But yeah, I thought, is it better to have a stockpile and do like 1,000,001 interviews in 1 month, or just do one and have it air that same week? Like 1 a week. I don't know. I can't find the balance because I keep scheduling more. I can't say no. I can't say no because I don't want to miss a good opportunity to have a great guest on. So I'm just like, come on, let's just do it. And then we'll figure it out. Yeah. So it can really clutter your life without a doubt. Like, oh, I can't do this because I've got 2 podcast interviews and yeah, but I love it. I still love it.
And people are usually willing to be flexible. I mean, we've both experienced that, having to move things around a little bit here and there.
Right. Yeah. Because you can get your plate so full between your own life stuff and then adding your fun. Because it's a hobby to me. It's a hobby. So it's like, I don't want to give up that hobby. But then if it starts taking over my life stuff, then it's just like, okay, balance. You got to try and find that balance. And sometimes it's just really hard because life is busy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you don't want to miss your life.
Exactly. You don't want to miss those moments. Like, I live close to my siblings, and my youngest sibling has 2 adorable baby boys. Well, he's about to turn 4, so he's not a baby anymore. But the other one is 12 months old, and you don't want to miss time, like whether it's with your children or your nieces and nephews or your grandchildren or whoever's in your life, because that time you'll never get back.
Right. And it does go so fast. What are the saying? The days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
It's so true. You look back, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my kids are having kids. How did that happen? They were just a baby. But it's a fun new chapter. And I love watching it. And I don't want to miss a thing. And if it gets to the point where my podcast is just too much and I need to goodbye podcast, it's fine. It's been fun. It's been real. But yeah, we'll never take a front seat to my life with my family. Family's the most important.
Yeah. But you do have your podcast now, and it's Dawnversations. I'll put the link in the show notes so that people can listen to it. And do you have a favorite quote or mantra or verse or a family motto that you live by?
Ooh, that's a good question. My dad always, this will make me want to tear up. My dad always said, don't let the highs get too high and don't let the lows get too low. And that, again, is that balance thing. But I lost my dad in February of 2020. And he had so many good golden nuggets of things that he would say. And that's the only one that sticks out right now. And I'll think of a million after we're done. But yeah, no, he always said that. And it's so true. You know, you just, when your things are going great, you know, just enjoy it. Because when things are going bad, you know, this too shall pass. You know, it's not always going to stay one way or the other. Just enjoy the moments when you have them, because they go quick.
Yeah. Wow, man. Well, I'm sorry I didn't mean to make you cry.
Oh my gosh, no. I cry
really beautiful.
I cry all the time. Just ask my kids. But no, yeah, it's Dawnversations. I just recently changed it over to more spiritual, soul, self-development. And I enjoy doing the stand-up comedians and all that stuff, but I'm just kind of trying to veer more towards that stuff because that's where my heart is right now. I just really feel like I want to focus on me and self-care and God and all that good stuff. So that's where I'm at right now. So that's basically what the podcast is kind of getting into.
Well, I'm glad that you're following your own guidance, right? Your own intuition and where you feel that you want to pour into, not just for yourself, but for your audience members as well.
Yeah, I hope they all come along for the ride. I just have to be genuine and really be interested in what I'm talking about. And I was interested in all that stuff, but this is just where I'm going now. And it's what I'm passionate about. I love astrology and numerology and just all that and stuff in your brain, all that stuff I love. So that's where I'm headed. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, I love that. I listen to several podcasts that are like manifestation, abundance, mindset. I read a lot of books on that. So
what's your favorite book?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'm part of a book club where we listen to a different book. Well, I listen on Audible mostly, but we read a book and then we have a podcast episode for every chapter of the book. So we all kind of go through it together. Oh. So that's been really interesting. And I honestly haven't had time to keep up with it, but you can go back and listen to any of the other ones, read any of the past stuff. And so I have a whole bunch flagged. There's not one that sticks out to me. They're all really good. And I use them in conjunction with then I'll do subliminals or meditations or listen to some things like that to help me make those shifts to my mindset.
Yeah, I love that. And sometimes it's just so random where you'll just pick up a book and just open to a page and it's like what you needed to hear right then and there. Exactly. I love that stuff. It's not just a coincidence. It's meant to be. You're supposed to see what you see when you do. So I love that stuff. But yeah, I've got some super fun episodes coming up all about that. So I can't wait to air them. Yes.
Awesome. Yes. Definitely be listening. And thank you, Dawn. This has been so fun. And so it's been very refreshing and light to just get to that and not have let's have a big call to action or just talk about your company. I love doing that too. Don't get me wrong, but it's fun to do this too.
Oh, yeah. No, it was super fun. Yeah. I'm not good with that intense stuff. I keep it light. I don't like the heavy or facts and numbers and all that. No, thanks. Not this girl.
Well, you've heard all about Dawn and her podcast. So if you're looking for light, refreshing, entertaining, and listening to some spiritual slanted episodes that are coming up, go listen to Dawnversations. With that, I'll be back again in a few days with another amazing guest talking about their expertise and laying some knowledge on you for your listening pleasure. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.